Well, I think Diddy's done. He is behind bars in Manhattan right now and will likely be there for quite some time. If his picture of him in the park the day before or the day of his arrest says anything, I think he was doing a lot of contemplating life the last couple of days before the arrest took place. Joining me to discuss what happens from here, Eric Faddis, defense attorney, former prosecutor. So let's just start with this. Your reactions to Diddy being taken down on Monday night.
It's a massive development, and the way that the takedown happened was a little bit unusual. It
Yeah.
sounds like the defense had arranged for an arrest to happen the
Uh-huh.
following day, but instead authorities came the day prior and arrested him kind of by surprise. Now he is in custody for the duration.
Why do you think that is? Why did they move in so quick? I know his defense attorney made a statement outside of the courthouse, something to the effect. Explain what the strategy might be here for getting the arrest early.
It looks like Diddy came voluntarily to New York to surrender, so
Yeah.
he was cooperating. I wonder if the authorities got wind of additional information. So there's been allegations that Diddy has engaged in witness tampering, cover-ups, bribery, that kind of thing, including as the investigation has been pending. And I'm just wondering if authorities had some concern that if they don't lock him up soon, there could be more damage done to the case.
Well, do you think there's any concern of being a flight risk at any point? I mean, because he was, from what we understand, the next day, Tuesday, he was supposed to be turning himself in. I mean, you're coming down to the wire. He knows it's not going to be good. Probably never going to see freedom again. So if he's going to bounce, Monday night would have been the last opportunity to do so. Was it preventative of like just in case? I mean, he's got the money. If he want, even those passports are surrendered and all that, if he wanted to get out, he could get out.
Exactly. Just by his nature, Diddy has the resources to, go to Honduras and
Yeah,
and disguise his appearance
yeah.
and disappear forever. I think that's certainly a concern, but it sort of cuts against some of Diddy's efforts to allegedly cooperate or at least come to the jurisdiction and surrender himself. But certainly, flight risk is always top of mind with a defendant like this.
Obviously, lots of charges against him, sex trafficking, and RICO charges as well. It's also what they were able to bring R. Kelly down on. Can you explain that a little bit for the folks who don't quite get what that all means with the RICO charge?
Yeah, so RICO is this federal law that was implemented really to target organized crime, mafia types, that kind of thing, but it's been used more expansively since its inception. What it entails is that there is an ongoing pattern of illegal activity, multiple crimes over a duration of time that involves a criminal enterprise. So a larger organization, a lot of additional players who we might hear about in the coming weeks or months.
And that's what I'm wondering about when we're talking about additional players here. Just speculating, do you think these additional players are going to be relatively unknown to the general public, or could, I guess potentially anything's possible, but could some of these additional players be people that are fellow celebrities of like Diddy?
Excuse me. Yeah, so I think that it's probably going to be a mix of both. The government allegedly has video evidence of some of these freak offs, these orchestrated sex performances that were allegedly attended by high profile individuals. What involvement did those folks have in potentially recruiting alleged victims, in participating in the activities? That is where we could see some high profile folks being implicated. I think there will also be some lower level folks, such as personal assistants and such, who allegedly had some participation.
That's the big question here right now. Who else was involved with Diddy? And I think it's more so the curiosity from a celebrity standpoint. There's, like you said, there's different levels of this. There's people who actually orchestrated the things, and there's probably people who just basically participated in the things. Um, Obviously, they're depending on their level of involvement is going to depend if they can even bring charges against some people if they were aware of how all this was orchestrated. But certainly reputation damaging to any celebrity who's going to be named in any of this. With something like this, I mean, celebrity or not, if you're someone who's participating in this sort of thing, his freak offs or whatever it may be, that was some sort of illegal activity, but you didn't necessarily have knowledge or orchestrate any of it. Uh, Are the feds sensitive to anybody's reputation in any of this, or will names be named, whether or not they have charges brought against them, or not?
At least in terms of how the feds have handled this so far, they've been a little bit tight-lipped. When you look at the 14-page indictment, it doesn't reference any other specific person by name
Mhm.
except for Diddy. And I think what the feds are doing is they're sort of signaling to these folks, "Hey, you're in sort of the danger zone here, and unless you want us to out you, you should come to the government and become a cooperating witness. We'll give you likely immunity." And so I think that they're kind of playing this close to the vest until it all blows up, which I imagine is going to come down the pike pretty soon.
When Diddy was arrested this last week on Monday night, we had speculated prior to this that there'd be multiple arrests all over the country, different places, different people. That did not happen. They took down Diddy. Were you surprised by that at all, or is this part of a strategy? 'Cause they did clearly say this is an ongoing investigation. There's very likely will be other charges brought, whether it be against Diddy or other individuals. Is this kind of one of those things right now where, okay, we got the kingpin, now let's watch everybody scatter, talk, basically let them incriminate themselves, now that we, just, threw a giant rock in this pond.
That appears to be the federal government's strategy, and it's a bit uncommon, especially in a RICO case. Often in a RICO case, the kingpin is indicted, but also the underlings, the other folks, affiliates, those sort of things, are also indicted as part of a showing of force from the government that, hey, like, we know what's up, and we know these 20 people are involved, and who wants to come give us information? Here, they didn't do that, and I think it's in part a sort of veiled threat towards those folks to see how they're going to react.
And without like directly going to them and saying, "Hey, we know you're involved. We have you on video." Are they just like, "Okay, let's see what they do. Let's see how they act," or maybe, or have they gone to some of these people already and basically have given them immunity? You tell us what you know, and we're going to squeeze you, and then okay, then that's why maybe there weren't more arrests already.
I don't know for sure. My guess, though, is that the government has identified several folks who are higher up, and those folks probably knew, could hear the footsteps, knew the storm was coming, have probably lawyered up. It would not be uncommon for prosecutors to get in touch with those folks and/or their attorneys, sort of off the record, to say, "Hey, do you want to negotiate a deal to protect your dude or not?"
Mhm.
Before they disclose publicly who those people are.
There's a lot of people who were close with him, and there's a lot of speculation of, I guess, how involved they were. I mean, it's almost been, a secret that wasn't a secret, because so many people, interviews over the years, have talked about Diddy's parties in not talking about them by saying there's certain things I can't talk about here. I know Ashton Kutcher had said that. There's an image even on Beyonce's Instagram still of Diddy and Jay-Z sitting next to each other on a couch with their mouths being covered like we can't talk. Um, Having knowledge of this sort of stuff, um, is that criminal in itself, and not reporting it and not doing anything about it? I mean, obviously they all have the money, so they're living in a different land. But obviously criminal activity took place here. It doesn't matter what you have for money if you're being a criminal. So I guess the question is, who else are we likely going to see, falling here? It's all speculation at this point, but I'm going to guess there's going to be more.
Yeah, as my colleague Nicole Palmer said recently, a freak off in and of itself is not a crime.
Uh huh.
So attending a cool party or a not cool but a party is not necessarily criminal. It's going to depend on what those folks knew. Did they know there was some coercion? Did one of the women or men workers come to them and say, "Hey, look, I don't feel safe here. I don't feel comfortable," and they just disregarded it? That's when we start to get to the level of possible criminal liability. In terms of the individuals, I would be looking, if I was the prosecutor, at Diddy's close circle, business wise and otherwise, Bad Boy Entertainment, his other ventures, to really try to ferret out if any of those folks had direct involvement in these allegations.
Let's talk about that. I mean, record companies and things of that nature. I mean, Bad Boy is a subsidiary, and I forget what it's a subsidiary of, but I would think there'd be some knowledge within the record companies. I know in some of the civil suits, the record companies are named, saying, "We believe you couldn't not know what was going on with your star over here." Are we going to see possible charges and things like that on the business side for some companies that may have, helped fund, been participating somewhat, on an economic level with this stuff?
It's surely possible. And the gentleman's name escapes me, but this week, after the Diddy arrest happened, a high level record executive, I forget which record company, but was associated with Diddy, resigned. And everyone is saying, hey, is there some relationship there? And so, in looking at it, the allegations of bribery, obstruction of justice, essentially covering up crimes, often involved monetary payments. And were any sort of business types involved in those transactions? And if so, what knowledge did they have? That's going to be a pressing question for authorities.
Lots of questions and lots of people involved in this. I'm imagining there's a lot of scared people right now as well that are sitting around going, "Okay, what's going to drop next?" Hey, thanks for checking out the video. Be sure to follow us wherever you download podcasts, and especially Apple Podcasts, where you can get advanced episode and premium content on our premium channel right there. Also, be sure to follow us on social media so you don't miss any breaking updates on the stories that matter to you most. We're on TikTok, X, Instagram, Facebook. Just search Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski, and you'll find us right there. Again, thanks for watching.